Good morning and happy Labor Day. It's game week. It's been a long time coming. So when we start looking at what we've got and what we've been through, I thought about these young people that since spring break, they've had classes online. Their workouts have been disrupted this summer as well as this spring. Some of them were working in hallways at their apartments. Some of them were trying to lift weights creatively because they didn't have a weight room. And then since then, we've had kids opt out, no spring practice, and here we are. We've had to learn to eat differently. We've had to learn to work out differently. We're trying to figure out how to work it in a locker room where it works. You're also trying to figure out how to shower. How do you meet? How do you meet as a staff? How do you meet as players and your positions and social distance and keep your mask on? How do you practice? How do you travel? And how do you play? And it all works. And now your game week and we'll be tested 3 times a week. So we were tested this morning. We'll be tested Wednesday after practice. And then I was just told we'll be tested Friday afternoon. And after that test, you may not get the results back till Saturday morning at 9 and we play at 12. So we could find out that a staff member can't participate during the game, or a player couldn't participate in the game as late as 9 o'clock on Saturday morning. So it will definitely be different. But at the same time, I've got to brag on Commissioner Swafford, the ACC office, the presidents and chancellors in our league, the athletics directors in our league, our head coaches and our players, because they've handled this process right. They said we're going to move forward slowly, and we're going to try to figure out, is it safe and how can we make it safe, and then make a decision whether we're going to play or not. And because of the process that they've put in place, we are safe and we're playing. So I really commend all of those folks. I was on those head coaches meetings each week, and all of the head coaches were working to try to make it work out for each other so we could play. So usually it's you've got a lot of individualism when you've got head coaches and athletics directors and even presidents and chancellors meeting. They're trying to make sure that whatever is best for their university fits. And I think here, everybody just said, let's figure this thing out. What's safe? And if it's safe, can we play? And I'm so excited that because of that, we're moving forward. I hate the fact that our wonderful fans won't be at the games on Saturday. Because last year they sold out every game and they were a true home field advantage, and we'll lose that. We'll lose that advantage Saturday against Syracuse. And our fans have stepped up to 70% of them either donated their money for the season ticket holders, either donated their money for the season tickets back to the athletics departments who are all struggling financially, or they have rolled their money over for next year for their tickets. So our fans have been outstanding. And what I encourage our fans to do is get your game day gear on, go tailgate with your family at home, and you scream in front of that TV as loudly as you can so we can hear you in the stadium when we come. What is different, though, is that I'm responsible for our football family, and that's our parents and our players. And right now, our parents are not allowed to come to the game. These parents have seen these kids play since a very early age. And they need to be there. And they need to be there to celebrate with them after a win, to try to pick them up after a game that you didn't play well in. Maybe they didn't play and they need mental support, because mental health is so important right now, and their academic support. But also we play a very physical game. And we need to try to make sure that the parents are there if one of their sons got hurt. And hopefully that wouldn't happen, but they would be there to support them and make sure that they're safe moving forward. So I would ask that the decision makers that have made the decision not to let parents in the game this weekend, we're talking about hundreds, in a 50,000+ seat stadium where they would be wearing masks and they would be social distancing and making sure that they were totally safe to our community, would reconsider that decision and let the parents come. And that's talking about universities all over this state, because parents need to see their kids play. And that's very, very important from our standpoint moving forward. Our team's excited about the challenge on Saturday of Syracuse. we've had a lot of hype since the bowl game. A lot of people have been talking about how much better we're going to be and how good we're going to be. And we'll see now, is that hype real? Are we going to be that much improved, or was it just the momentum at the end of last year and we've lost that momentum now? So it's time to play somebody else and really figure out who we are, because I've talked to the players about preseason rankings are just hype. They're about last year. They're not about what you've accomplished this year. So that's stuff that we need to step up and play well and get this season started on a positive note. Concerns going into the season, we've talked about a lot. We don't have a lot of depth in our offensive line, and that's something we're concerned about. We've talked about depth and cross-training to ad nauseum since we started this season. And we missed our spring like everybody else. We didn't have any days, so we didn't get to develop that spring. So most of our work this fall has been to try to make sure that we get players that can have 2 or 3 people at each position, so we don't get tired in the second half and fourth quarter and lose some close games like we did last year. It's especially troublesome with the new defensive coordinator, Tony White, at Syracuse. We weren't planning on this game. We sure weren't planning on opening up with this game because it wasn't on our previous schedule till things changed. So we've got a couple of weeks here, but Tony White's from the 3-3-5 defense that Rocky Long started at New Mexico and then San Diego State, and they're going to be bringing them all over the place. I've read one article where they had 10 sacks and 4 interceptions because they've got a tremendous secondary a couple of weeks ago in their scrimmage. So that's a concern for us. We know they're going to bring a lot of people and they're going to come after us. Special teams, we didn't do very well last year. We've got to be improved in that area. So we've worked really, really hard on special teams to try to make sure that that's an area of improvement. And then as far as our pass rush, we want to make sure we develop a pass rush with only 4 rushers. We don't want to have to bring extra players all the time because it makes it more difficult for Jay Bateman, our defensive coordinator, when he's got to look at trying to bring a lot of extra guys and only play man coverage and somebody that throws the ball as well as DeVito and Syracuse. It would be troublesome for us. We've gotten 21 practices in to this point. Normally you would have 25. We had an extra 2 weeks or 10 days to prepare. So we did have our practices suspended for 4 days there, but we're going to get 25 practices in over this time. And because we had extra time, we were able to go a little bit slower and spread the practices out. So we'll still get the same number of practice sessions that we would have gotten leading into the Central Florida game, which would have been last Friday. And this week we would have obviously been playing Auburn in Atlanta. So all of that changes. John Wildhack, the athletics director at Syracuse, is a dear friend of mine. He hired me for ABC and ESPN as soon as I got through at Texas. So I really love John, appreciate John and all he stands for, and he's doing a great job there. Dino Babers, I coached against Dino when he was at Texas A&M and at Baylor. He kind of grew up with Dick Tomey at Arizona and Hawaii, but he got into the Art Briles system, and that's what they are. They run the ball. He's changed it a little bit from the Art Briles days, but it's still the Art Briles system that they had at Baylor. And he just hired Sterling Gilbert, who was the offensive coordinator for Charlie Strong at Texas, and I watched Sterling. He did a great job down there. So they're not going to change a lot offensively. The biggest changes will be defensively, and they've still got the same special teams coach. So we feel like that'll be the biggest adjustment for us, and that'll be Coach Longo and the offensive staff having to look at maybe changing that game plan during the first quarter simply because they haven't seen these schemes before. Then you also look at their 7 starters back on offense, so we're going to know a lot about who they are, led by their quarterback. They've got really strong receiving core, but they only have 4 guys coming back on defense, so we've had to dig really hard in this short period of time to try to find the guys that some of them, the 7 that weren't starting, find them and try to figure out their playing time. Their kicker was 11 for 11 last year inside the 40, so he's very, very accurate. And they've got a freshman punter that they feel like can be really, really good. So questions from anybody?
All right, thanks, Coach. We will begin with Andrew Jones. Just a reminder to please give your name, your media outlet, and unmute yourself for your question. So, Andrew, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Andrew Jones from Tar Heel Illustrated. I was just curious if you had a chance to watch any of the games that were played this past weekend, and if you learned something about seeing them kind of navigate through some of the changes for this year.
Yeah, Andrea, it's a great question. I should have mentioned it in my opening remarks. I watched every one of them, and that's all I did. And number one, there were a lot of mistakes. So I think we're going to see the effects of no spring practice and this roller coaster ride we've all been on coming into this year with play on the field some. So hopefully that doesn't happen with us on Saturday. But we've talked to coaches that have already coached games. And it was interesting, the three things that have come up, and we felt them in our scrimmages. It's harder to get your substitutions lined up, especially for special teams, because you've extended the box. And players are much more spread out, and it's harder to communicate with your mask on. So we're really working hard to try to figure out, can we get a clear mask where the players can read your lips if they can't hear you? And you've still got some noise because you're playing some music between plays, you're playing some crowd noise. So when we think there's no noise, there actually is some. So communication for substitution, especially special teams, and communication with the mask on is something that's been different. The other one that we noticed and we didn't feel like was a big issue at first, but now in watching it after we've talked to people, you can't hear the whistles of the officials, the handheld whistles, near as well as you could hear the whistles before. So the coaches are telling us that it's really hard for the players to stop on the whistle when you can't hear it. We had a long discussion with our officials the other day, and each one of them said we're going to try to hold it longer. So that's something we really need to look at across the country with college football. Are the handheld whistles going to be loud enough to make sure that the players don't have late hits because they can't hear, for the safety of the players?
Follow-up question. You've talked a lot about special teams going back to when you announced Javon DeWitt back in February. Do you believe that all of your units have made progress? And has there been any resolution as far as who's going to do the place kicking duties this week?
Number one, yes, I do believe we've improved. We have worked so hard every day. In fact, our situation scrimmage on Saturday was large majority special teams, and it was live. We didn't hit our punt and kickoff returners, but everything else was live. And we still haven't made a decision, Andrew, on our kicker yet. Both have done well. It is true that Grayson Adkins has got a really strong leg, and he gets it so high when he kicks it. So as of today, he would be our kicker on Saturday, but we'll probably make that decision on Thursday after practice.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, we're going to move over to Dina King. Dina, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Dina King, Tar Heel Illustrated. You guys last year had one game at noon kickoff, and that was the bowl game against Temple. What's your thoughts on playing an early noon kickoff game?
Dana, it's a good question. Last year we didn't want them because we didn't think it was best for our fans. Well, until we get fans coming, I'd like to get up and play. So our fans will be in front of the TV at noon. If they told me right now we weren't going to have fans in our stands for the rest of the year, I'd like every game at noon. So our guys could get up, go play, and then have the rest of the day to be around their families and enjoy the other games. So I'm not concerned at all about a noon game with no fans. Now, if it's fans, I'd a lot rather it be night games because it's cooler and they have all day to enjoy each other and prepare. But that's when we had fans in the stands.
And to follow up on that, is there going to be any change, like in your protocol for an early game with the COVID situations? Will the team still possibly stay in a hotel, or what's the plans for that?
We've worked on all this stuff so hard, and it's just crazy that we're going to take 2 buses. We are going to stay in a hotel. We're having to make sure that we match up guys as roommates that maybe live together now to make sure they're safe in the same room. We're having to try to figure out how we get meetings because you can't put all the guys in the same room at the same time, so we're having to stagger meetings. And even it looks like right now for pregame meal, because there's not enough room to feed our whole team at the hotel we're staying in, we might have to have carry out and pick up. So the guys come down and get their food and take it back up to the room. So it is very different than anything we've ever done before. And these players have been incredible with their flexibility. I've never seen anything like it. They haven't griped about anything. I mean, they're getting that swab stuck up their nose 3 days a week. I don't like it. They're saying, Coach, it's the only way we're going to play. So let's do it. We tell them we won't know that they're going to get to play till 9 o'clock on Saturday morning in some cases. They don't care. They want to play. So I think by all they've overcome that they're going to put up with anything they need to be ready to go on Saturday.
Thank you.
Okay, Aaron Beard, you're up next. Go ahead, Aaron.
Hey, Mack, Aaron Beard with the AP. You mentioned the idea of mistakes maybe showing up a little bit earlier because of the altered offseason and training in spring. Is that going to be a comparable thing, you think, to when you're starting a season and maybe it takes a little bit of time to kind of get your groove and kind of get everybody kind of clicking? It's one thing to do it in preseason camp. It's another thing to do it in a game. Is it going to be harder, or is it going to take longer, do you think, to hit that groove?
Aaron, most of the time in the first ball game, a lot more games are lost than they are won. Is your team dead-legged? Have you overworked them? Are they tired because of preseason? Because you get more time in preseason than any other time. Because we don't hit as much now as we all used to. There's more turnovers because ball carriers, quarterbacks, running backs, and receivers, tight ends aren't as used to carrying the ball and being hit full speed. Are there more missed tackles because you don't tackle as much? The kicking game, you don't do it live in most cases. So I think normally we see a lot more mistakes in the first ball game than not. But I think it's even going to be more so now with the inconsistency. Some of these guys didn't think they were going to play 10 days ago or 2 weeks ago. So they woke up and started seeing people play and say, oh my gosh, we're going to play, man. I better pick it up. I got to get in shape. I got to watch what I'm eating. I got to practice better. So I think it's all kind of just jumped on us here. So I do think that we'll see a much better brand of football in the second and third week than we do on opening day.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is CL Brown.
Hi, Coach. It's CL Brown, Raleigh News and Observer. I was wondering, obviously we see the too deep for players from week to week, but based on the contingencies that you might have to make because of COVID, what is that going to be like for coaches? Like if you have a Phil Longo who tests positive or something and he can't be on the sidelines or can't be in the coach's box for a game, what's your plan kind of like to juggle responsibilities of coaching staff if you have somebody who can't be there?
Yeah, it's another great question. The NCAA has given us the right, if a coach is not able to coach during the game, you can replace him with a traditional non-coaching staff member. So you could put an analyst or you could put a quality control guy in his place on the field that week to help practice or during the ball game. So we could have a positive test on Wednesday with a coach and have to promote this young analyst at that time immediately and let him coach because it'd be after practice Wednesday. We probably wouldn't know till Thursday. He'd have to coach Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We could have a coach test positive Saturday morning at 10 o'clock or at 9 o'clock. Didn't have to make that adjustment then. So what we've done is told the coaches, you are responsible to have someone to take your place. So Jay Bateman, have a play caller ready. Phil Longo, we have worked on it. Have somebody ready. If it's a running back coach that hops out, who takes his place? Because we've told the players, man, that the only thing certain about this year is uncertainty. So let's handle it. It's not going to be an excuse, regardless of who the player is or the coach. If it's me, we'll have somebody step in for me for those 10 days that I can't coach. So that's what all of us are trying to do. We're trying to do everything right to make sure that nobody gets sick. But this virus spreads so easily and so quickly. The odds of making it through the season without some coach being sick is probably not very good. So we have to be ready for that.
And I also wanted to kind of get an update of sorts. At the beginning of fall camp, you kind of mentioned the receivers, the drop passes from last year, wanting to clean all of that up. How has it been? Like, as you enter this week going into Syracuse, what was it like, in the past month or so?
CL, I think the players must listen to this press conference, because when I called them out for drops, they haven't had many. So that's good. So they're doing much better, and they've played well, and our passing game's getting back to where it needed to be. I do think part of it too was the fact that we're much better in the secondary. And I'm out there one day, and we're in Pascal, and the first 3 passes that we called, everybody was covered. So I liked it. So our offense has been much more challenged by our secondary and our linebackers now than they were at this time last year. So that's a real positive for us as well.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, let's go over to Greg Barnes. Greg, go ahead.
Hey, Mack. Greg Barnes in South Carolina. For the last 6 months, you've kept a solid footing, if you will, with regard to your assistants and the players about, the only certainty is uncertainty, kind of plowing through. On a personal level, with this roller coaster ride, have you dealt with highs and lows, wondering if this season is going to take place?
Greg, another great question. Yes. The players and the coaches have actually pulled me up. I was really down one day, and I can't remember the specific day, but I didn't do a good job in the staff meeting, because I try to tell the coaches all the information I have and the players, and there's nothing. We're totally transparent. There's no elephant in the room. If I think we might not play, then it's my responsibility to tell everybody there's a chance, guys, we will not play, and here are the reasons. And there was one day, and I can't remember exactly what it was. I'd gotten a call or some information, and I got too many friends out there in the media and higher positions in this sport. And I would ask them, and they're very honest with me, and everybody thought there was question marks. So I was this for a while. And then I realized what I've got to do is I've got to lead. My responsibility is only to help these coaches and these players navigate through these crazy waters. And I can't be up and down. I can't be wishy-washy. So I just got a plan and said, what I'm going to do is tell the guys that I'm planning on playing. Until they tell us no, we're going to play. And then if they move us to spring, this will be a great spring practice. We didn't have spring practice. So we are not going to sit around and have excuses. We're not going to have regrets. If we do play, let's prepare to do the best that we can do. And you stay on your academics. Nothing's changed there. And then I think it helped the kids' mentality that the NCAA gave their year of eligibility back, because that became something. I don't have to worry about losing this year if we don't play. What happens if we move to spring? What about redshirting? So none of those issues right now are out there. So I've done better, Greg, the last month probably, just because even when this started, I was saying, how do you play? How do we know that you're going to be able to do inside drill? And now I've seen with no positives in over a month of 21 practices, it's not being spread by football if the kids will do what they're supposed to do, and the staff and the coaches outside of the football. And as long as we stay in our bubble and we do the things we're supposed to do. We'll probably have some positives because you're not sure how it spreads, but the risk is definitely lower if you keep your mask on and if you separate from people. And our guys are really trying to do that. They want to play, and I applaud all of those people I mentioned earlier to give these kids a chance to play. Now we just got to hope that they'll let the parents come and watch them.
And with regards to that, with the parents coming, has UNC you asked the governor's office for any special considerations in that regard?
I would have to let Bubba answer that, but I know that everybody at UNC thinks the parents should be able to see their kids play, and they want them to see their kids play. So, but they would have to answer what communication they've had. I've been a little overloaded.
All right. Thanks, Mac.
Let's move over to Brandon Ross. Brandon, go ahead.
Hi, Coach. I'm from Syracuse, WAER. Total non-football question, but I just kind of wanted to pose this to you. When you retook the job at North Carolina, you said this would be one of the few places you would come back to. When you went to Austin in the years since, did you keep your connection with the state of North Carolina up in any way, and if so, how?
Well, Brandon, welcome, number one, and number two, yes. We, Sally and I had a house. We have a house up in the mountains of North Carolina that we've used. We've had it for 20-something years up in Linville, North Carolina. And every June 1st, I would go to Linville with Sally and doing all of my ESPN, ABC duties. I would stay up there until the leaves changed. So we had contact with a lot of our North Carolina friends long before that, but we really never left this state. And it is true. In retrospect, I interviewed a couple of times over the 5 years, 3 or 4 different times with universities, but we never really considered any of it. And when this one came up, we knew this is where we should be and what we should do at this time.
And what makes Chapel Hill feel so much like home?
I met my wife here, had our 29th anniversary yesterday. We raised our kids here. Most of our children went to school at UNC. And when we left here, we didn't really leave here. We said we went to Texas because at that time it was better for us to do that. But we've always loved Chapel Hill, and it's always been a place that we come back to, and we have so many great friends here. And it's what's made this transition so easy is the familiarity with the university. The vice president was one of my managers when I got here. So it's been interesting to see all of the people, whether it's from the high school coaching ranks or our boosters or the people at the university. It's just been fun to reconnect with old friends and make some new ones.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, next up is Ross Martin. Ross, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Ross Martin, Inside Carolina. Last, 2019, you had a new quarterback. You had 2 new linebackers, new offense, new defense. What are you most nervous about entering the opener against Syracuse? Can be on the field or anything else.
Ross, I'm most nervous about our offensive line picking up the multiple blitzes that we're going to see. Syracuse front is back, and they're very talented, and their secondary is very good. It'll be one of the best secondaries in the country, and we're having to look at video from other places to see what kind of schemes they're going to use. Obviously, they're going to adjust those schemes to their personnel. And then some of the linebackers we've seen, some of them we haven't even seen. So if you ask me, we started out last year with protection issues in our South Carolina and Miami game, and now we're playing a team that we haven't seen before, that we weren't prepared for, and we've got fewer players ready to play on the offensive line on a hot day than I would like. So obviously, other than all the other stuff that coaches worry about in opening ball games, that would be my biggest concern, is we've got to protect the quarterback.